Good morning, class. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. Hello, this is Mr. Mel's classroom. I am Mr. Mel, and unfortunately, until further notice, I'm going to be confined to this box that we have around me. I am trapped in your computer screen. But all joking aside, today I'm going to be teaching you how to navigate my classroom just a little bit, what some of the expectations are going to be of online learning, and we're going to get into our first actual lesson today that has to do with tone, identifying your audience, and writing a letter. So that should be fun. Let's get into it, shall we? First, let's tour my new classroom, shall we? On the screen in front of you, you will see Howard's English class that I've set up here. Yale and Fisk have their own colors because I like to be color coordinated. Anyway, whenever you start up your Google Classroom, the first page you're going to go to is the stream page. On this stream page, you'll be able to see a full list of any announcements that I have to give your class or all of the classes. If you click on the Classwork tab, you will find all of the different assignments, lessons, quizzes, assessments, and everything else that you're going to need in order to get a good grade in my class. I'm going to keep the notes and materials section in the very, very top, followed by the grammar section. The grammar warm-up is very important because that's how we're going to take attendance. If you do your sentence imitation, then I'll count you as here in my class to that day that you post. I'm going to put any lesson videos, including this lesson video, under this tab here. All of your actual assignments that are going to be graded are going to be put under this tab. As you can see, I already have a list of things that you're going to be seeing eventually, but I have them set up so they're going to be released at certain times and on certain dates, so you're not going to see all of these all at once. And finally, the assessments tab at the very bottom here are where you're going to be taking your quizzes related to some of the assignments. Not every assignment is going to have a quiz with it, but make sure that you always check both the assignments section and the assessment section the day that you're logging into my class to see if you only need to take an assignment or perhaps you need to take both an assignment and also a quiz to go along with it as well. Now then, on with the show. So, you are going to be writing a persuasive letter today, but it's not just going to be a persuasive letter to your grandma trying to convince you to give you that last bite of cookies at the dinner table. No, I also don't know why you would write a letter to your grandmother while you're actively at dinner with her, but hey, I've seen weirder. Now, today you're going to be learning how you might be able to persuade a noble family of noble birth to let a certain couple perhaps romance each other. Sound familiar? Yes, that's right, Romeo and Juliet. You're going to be writing a letter to the noble families of Romeo and Juliet, the Capulets and the Montagues. But if you're actually going to convince one side of the family to let Romeo and Juliet date and do what they want to do, you're going to have to learn how to adjust your tone so they'll actually take you seriously. So when you're writing persuasive writing, the first thing you need to do is you need to know your audience, okay? The audience that you're writing to influences several different things about the way you're going to be writing and speaking to somebody. So, for example, depending on who you're writing to, who your audience is, you're going to be adjusting your tone, aka your vocabulary and word choice that you use. You're going to change the examples that you would use for them. And also you're going to change how sophisticated your grammar is. Is it okay to write improper grammar stuff if you're texting your friends? Absolutely it is, because we do that all the time. If you're writing a formal letter to somebody who is of higher authority than you, though, usually the expectation is that you're using proper grammar to go along with it. Now, in addition to knowing who your audience is, you also need to learn how to just identify your audience in the first place, right? You're going to want to ask yourself the following questions before any writing task or assignment, especially if somebody else is going to be reading your writing. The first question is, what kind of people am I writing to? Remember the word demographic from entrepreneurship? What kind of people are you actually writing to? Are you writing to somebody who is wealthier, who's perhaps middle class? Are you writing to somebody who has a complete family, who lives alone? Are you writing to a teacher? Are you writing to a student? Are you writing to the president? Who are you writing to? You need to know that. And based on your answer to the question above, you need to also ask yourself, are they expecting academic or casual language from me? And what are their values? Okay, so once you're done answering those questions, you'll be better informed in what kind of tone, what kind of writing style you need to use in order to reach out to and convince the person that you're trying to reach to. Now, there is a big difference in the way we can portray our tone to each other, right? If you are speaking informally to somebody, it might sound something similar to, and I'm sorry this exists, sup yo, it ain't alright if you're fitting to roll up in my crib with your outdated stilo flossing like you got cheddar, cause it ain't crunk to front when you're driving that hoopty. My wife's laughing in the background, by the way. And if you are writing or reading or speaking formally to somebody, it might sound drastically different, more in lines of, good afternoon. I would prefer if you refrained from making too much noise while you are perusing in my neighborhood. After all, we know you are not actually wealthy. So the biggest difference between those two phrases that I use is one, the size of the words, my word choice, right? I use more sophisticated, more impressive sounding word choice when I was trying to sound more formal. I also used a different syntactical or grammar style. In the second, more formal example, I used a semicolon. Remember, semicolons are very fancy, aren't they? In the first one, I just kind of keep going on and on and on and on, and it keeps going until it eventually stops. But in this one, I add some more intermittent punctuation, okay? So remember, I don't think you need me to tell you this really, but which one of those kinds of tones are more impressive? Especially if you're expecting a more formal letter. Obviously, the formal tone, right? In addition to that, you're going to want to make sure that your persuasive letter has good formatting, okay? You're going to start with something like, Dear Capulet and Lady Capulet, comma, space, skip down, and then start your passage of what you're writing. For example, in this letter, I started like, I'm Antonio, a member of the Montague family. I have been informed that you do not approve of Romeo and Juliet courting each other, but I would like to explain why allowing your daughter to marry a Montague may actually be in your best interest, blah, 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 right? And at the very end of the letter, you're going to write, sincerely, your name. You can write your real name. You can make up a name for a character. You can make up a name from Sergio's short story. I don't know. Do whatever you want. I'm going to be able to see whose document this is anyway. So that is the overall lesson plan for today, okay? So on Google Classroom, you're going to log into this, open up this persuasive letter assignment. Your directions are going to be to first brainstorm, how are you going to convince either the Capulets or the Montagues to let Romeo and Juliet date each other? What are some of those families' values? You should have a thesis statement at the beginning of your letter somewhere. You should try and appeal to one of the core values of one of the families. Remember, Romeo's family seemed very much interested in keeping Romeo happy, helping him out of his funk, giving him freedom to do what he wants. Juliet's family, on the other hand, very much values this idea of being able to control Juliet, control her destiny, her fate, and who they're going to have her marry. So keep that in mind when you're deciding how you're going to go about this, okay? You don't have to necessarily quote from Romeo and Juliet, but I do want to see you bring up a couple of examples. Mention a couple of moments from the story that you feel like could be helpful in convincing the noble families to let them date. When you're done pre-writing and going over some ideas, you're going to write your draft in this space right here, and that's going to be the only thing I'm expecting from you for Tuesday. This is going to be due Tuesday at 9:00 p.m. We're going to move on Wednesday to some peer revision, and I'm going to update another lesson on what that's going to look like, and you're going to write in a final draft of your letter in the space below. So this entire assignment is going to take place over 2 days. When you're done with writing your first draft, go ahead and submit it, even though you haven't written in the final draft space yet, because I would like to see your progress, so I know everyone is going to be able to share effective letters with their peers, and you're going to be able to make good comments on each other's writing, okay? So, as always, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'm only a phone call or an email away. I'm going to continue to have my office hours from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. Yeah. Yes, hopefully I'll be able to get out of this box soon. Hopefully you'll be able to get back into the real world soon as well. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm going to do what I can to at least make these kind of entertaining for you, okay? So, best of luck. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see all of your first drafts of your letters Tuesday night at 9 o'clock p.m.